Hello everybody, my name is Ray. Welcome to the Evangelical Dark Web. Today we're going to tackle a idol, so to speak, in evangelical Christianity, and that idol is Rachael Denhollander. Rachael Denhollander is a sex abuse survivor in her own right. She gained national notoriety for her role in the Larry Nassar trial and bringing him, this monster, down. And I don't begrudge or discredit any of the stuff that she's done in the past as it related to her own story. However, as a lawyer and as a evangelical figure, because I don't want to use the label Christian, she has done immeasurable damage to the church by being a leading advocate for feminism and otherwise relatively conservative evangelicalism. This is a pretty important issue, and nothing really makes this my point more clear than her support for Amber Heard. And that is what we'll be talking about in today's video, so don't forget to like the video. Also subscribe to the channel. That's the least you can do to help us out over at Evangelical Dark Web. So, credit where credit is due. I want to give credit to Capstone Report for publishing this article on the 13th. And this article is pointing to a Twitter thread, which we'll read. It's also quoted in the article that I wrote corresponding to this video. So don't forget to check out evangelicaldarkweb.org. These are incredibly important dynamics to understand with abuse, especially the way abusers wield the trauma they have caused and the victim's self-defense to flip the narrative. So she's going to go on an entire tangent about how Johnny Depp was actually the abuser and why Amber Heard's laughable testimony was actually is explainable by the fact that she was abused, despite the fact that there was no evidence that she was abused. Mind you, I watched a lot of this trial, and she was trying to claim that pictures that she looked perfectly fine in, she had a broken nose, or had a black eye that was covered with makeup despite the lack of swelling or any real noticeable damage to her face or arm. So she had doctored photos and really embellished, if even, like, I don't want to say embellished. Embellished implies that you had a hurt that you're over exaggerating your reaction to. It's not even that. There was just nothing there. And they're trying to claim that there's a black eye in this picture, or she had just been beaten 24 hours prior to this event, and that's covered up with makeup. And it's like, you can't cover up that much. You can't cover up a whole lot of swelling with makeup. There's only so much you can do there. So Amber Heard's defense was laughably bad. And it was Me Too all the way. It was, she's a woman, therefore you must believe her, despite the fact that Johnny Depp did have a lot of evidence that she slandered him or libeled because it was in print. So, nonetheless, Rachael Denhollander is a lawyer, by the way. Abusers are skilled at this manipulation, even to the point of creating situations where they can call the police on their own victims. He gets angry or violent, comes close to her, maybe never even touches her, but smashes holes in the wall by her or backs her against a wall. He's much stronger, bigger. He doesn't need a weapon. She already can't get out. Maybe he hasn't even touched her yet. But he's put her in danger. She knows if he starts beating her, she won't be able to get away. So she hits, shoves, kicks first, or grabs something as a weapon. But as soon as she hits first or grabs an object to defend herself, he calls the police. She gets a report filed on her. Now it's much harder to get protection from the legal system. Even though it was already extremely hard, he gets the support and empathy. She gets labeled crazy. Now, actually, I think this works the other way around, and it certainly did in the case of Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, that a woman can weaponize the fact that her taking a beating is far more believable than a man going to the police as a victim of domestic violence. I actually think that that's kind of the opposite. If a man is a victim of domestic violence, you know, it's far more plausible that they might be mocked, even by the police and the system, for that. That is far more plausible than what she's saying, in my opinion. But again, she's a feminist. I don't think she recognizes that, men are victims of domestic violence as well. And, I've had Bobby Lopez on this channel. He's a sex abuse survivor, and he's very skeptical of Rachael Denhollander and the way she weaponizes the issue to advance an agenda at the expense of other sex abuse survivors. Okay, she's experienced severe trauma. So her memories are fragmented, not linear. We know trauma does this. She's desperate and terrified, not calm and rational. Maybe seeing a therapist on meds and has diagnosable depression. He says she's crazy, unstable, irrational. We know trauma does this. It causes neural damage. You can literally see it on brain scans. We know trauma survivors have stress hormones coursing at high levels constantly in their bodies, and this taxes organs and impedes neural processing. So it shouldn't be a surprise that memories are fragmented, disclosure highly emotional, and a mental diagnosis present. The fact that the survivor lacks clarity and the ability to stay calm. That's just what neural damage causes, not even considering the mental manipulation. He, on the other hand, has none of this damage. He's calm, articulate, able to twist those dynamics he created to discredit her. He's still in control. So we all see is the calm, rational man explaining how crazy his wife really is. Really? All this talk about her doing Molly and the amount of drugs she's taken, the cuddle puddles. Do you know what a cuddle puddle is? It's really stupid, but that's what Amber Heard is into, apparently. He takes how much he wants to help and loves her. He takes the very damage he created and weaponizes it to make sure no one believes her and he stays in control. This is the same thing sexual abusers do. Wield the trauma and instability created by the assault as evidence that their victim is unstable and made it up. And this version of the abuser is more likable than the broken, exhausted, angry, desperate victim. He is relatable. She's crazy. He can connect with the people around him and engage relationally. She's messy. I hate that word. And has needs that require real effort. So people side with him. It requires nothing of them, and they often receive a level of emotional or relational gratification from this because he's still manipulating the community and they become part of it. Jurors have none of this training and are simply part of our society. That's kind of a lament there. Put a pin in that one. All of those rape and abuse myths that the culture responds with, jurors are a part of that culture too. They often have access to less information because of evidentiary rules. Yes, they can get it wrong. So as a lawyer, she is basically bashing the judicial system and the jury process. But it's very clear that she believes that Amber Heard was an abuse victim, despite the fact that the evidence did not support that. There was no evidence to advance that narrative. All the evidence showed that Johnny Depp was actually the victim of a crazy wife, an abusive wife. And, and that's before we get into the penthouse with other actors and stuff like that. So, Johnny Depp is actually the victim in that situation, but feminism doesn't allow for that. Me Too is not about, does not believe that women can lie about accusations. I guess Rachael Denhollander heard Amber Heard and believed her. That's her standard of evidence. So, like I said at the beginning of the video, Rachael Denhollander is using the issue of sex abuse in the church to spearhead feminist ideology. And it's very clear that she is advancing feminist ideology. If you think that Amber Heard is a domestic violence victim, then quite frankly, you are beyond argument. There's no evidence to suggest this. A jury effectively exonerated Johnny Depp because they ruled that Amber Heard knowingly and maliciously libeled Johnny Depp as a domestic violence offender. So she is denying the jury process as a lawyer, which is a very bad look. A lawyer should not do that and should know better. And it's an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment to the church that we have allowed Rachael Denhollander and her status as a sex abuse survivor to shield her from plebeian questions. That's an embarrassment because gullible men are so eager to virtue their signal, or signal their virtue, I should say, to be liked by the world, because the world likes Rachael Denhollander. That's just a fact. The world likes her. They view her as an expert. And quite frankly, she is a feminist first. She is, in my opinion, a cultural Marxist. So this was obviously made clear when she reads that David raped Bathsheba. This is not a interpretation supported and substantiated in Scripture. It just simply is not. The law of God is clear, and Bathsheba did not operate within the law of God, is not recorded as operating within the law of God as a woman who was raped. That is clear. Now, A.D. Robles made the comment that, or posited the idea that there's more evidence to suggest that she was a gold-digging temptress. And, if you read later into Bathsheba's story and how she's trying to solidify Solomon as the next king, it's very clear that she was aware of her station and has a level of ambition. Now, was that ambition guided by the promise? Because I believe 2 of her sons would be part of the lineage of Christ, one on the father's side and then the other on the mother's side. So, if I recall. So, the line of the Messiah goes through Bathsheba. And maybe she was consciously aware of that and was really trying to protect that. Maybe she was trying to do that. Maybe she was very focused on her ambition, but nonetheless, God was working through the situation. I don't know. But to me, Bathsheba's pretty savvy. I think we get that from the Bible. So I think that's an interesting point that A.D. Robles made. So I just wanted to share that. But he's absolutely right about God's law, and Bathsheba did not act as a rape victim under God's law. There's no evidence in Scripture to support that she was raped. And the parable by Nathan in the next chapter or so should not be viewed, should not be used to interpret a situation as rape when the law of God is clear. And 2 chapters later, the defiling of Tamar is also clear. So the people that are advancing that narrative are feminist. They have internalized feminism at best, or they're rabid feminist at worst. I would put Rachael Denhollander on the latter category, and it shows because she's backing Amber Heard. This is not someone that can be convinced by evidence. This is someone that has an agenda and does not care about evidence. Their cultural Marxist framework of power dynamics and examining power dynamics and judging according to power dynamics, which is a Marxist framework, dictates what they believe on an issue. And there is no amount of evidence that can exonerate a man that's been credibly accused. No amount of evidence. So That's all I got to say about that. My name is Ray. This is the Evangelical Dark Web. If you like this kind of content, subscribe to the channel like I said in the beginning. If you really like this kind of content, there's a Patreon-like system at evangelicaldarkweb.org. Let me know what you think about what I think in the comment section below. Have a blessed day. I will catch you on the next one.